In this lesson, I want to talk to you about buying plants for your salad garden. Now, I like to say that buying plants should be the very last thing you do for a salad garden because in general, as you've heard from me in previous lessons, salad actually grows best from seed. Almost all the plants that we like to grow in a salad garden really do best from seed. So even though you may go to the nursery and see lots of salad plants, don't be tempted. You're going to get such a better value for your money if you buy seeds. And now that you've taken salad garden school, you know how to grow from seeds. So I would highly recommend doing that before buying plants. But there may be some cases where you do want to buy a plant, and I've definitely bought salad plants. So I'm going to talk to you about what to look for when you head to the nursery and which plants you might want to prioritize. So I've got two plants here that I did in fact buy from the nursery that I'll add to my salad garden. And the first is onion chives. I think chives are a really great plant to get from the nursery. They're a little bit hard and challenging to grow from seed, and they're a great addition to the salad garden because they're a great companion plant. They keep predators away from your salad garden, and they're just an easy perennial. So you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. Like chives, even in really cold climates, come back year after year. So it's just a great investment. You buy it once, you can divide them and use them again and again. The other type of plant that I will excuse you from buying from the nursery are your large and long plants. So plants that are generally in the brassica family, things like large kales and collards and mustards and cabbages. Those sometimes I can excuse you from buying from the nursery, mostly because the nursery has done the hard work for you and gotten you the head start that you often need for these plants, because the large and long plants, remember, require more like 80, 90, 120 days in your garden. So if you haven't gotten your salad garden up fast enough, or you're just wanting to get a jump start, then buying the large and long plants from the nursery is a good thing to do. You'll probably find the most success with them. But buyer beware. I will say that oftentimes I've had the situation where I buy a large and long plant from the nursery and plant it alongside seed of the same plant. And over time, the plants that I grow from seed actually end up being healthier and lasting longer in the garden. And oftentimes I've bought cabbages because I want to get a jump start on growing those head cabbages. But in my own experience, it's been really hard to get head cabbage off of those purchased nursery plants. So that being said, let's talk about what to look for when you head to the nursery. So the first thing you want to ask when you're looking for plants is how they were grown. So very rarely are you at a nursery where you're going to have that explicitly said. So you're going to have to ask the question. So I would find someone who's working nearby and ask them just the simple questions. How did you plant this plant? What kind of seed was it grown from, and how has it been tended? Specifically, you're looking to find out if there have been any synthetic fertilizers added to the plant or any synthetic herbicides, fungicides, pesticides. Any kind of treatment that's been done to the plant, you want to know about ahead of time. Not just so that you could grow organically, which is most of our goals, definitely my goal, but also so that you know what that plant is expecting. Just like a child growing up in a home expects dinner to come at a certain time and dinner to look a certain way and sleep to come at a certain time, and all the routines that babies and toddlers get used to and kind of throw a fit about when it doesn't happen. The same is true for your plants. So however they've been bred and grown in their first few days and weeks and months of growth is really how they're going to expect to be treated once you bring them home. So if you buy a plant and you don't know that it's been sprayed with Miracle Grow or been treated with fungicide, then when you get it home and don't continue that treatment, your plant's going to be like a mad toddler throwing a fit, and then you're going to think that you don't have a green thumb, which is not what we're going for. So that being said, you want to ask how it's grown. I love, I go to a local nursery. In general, I do recommend buying from a local nursery versus buying from a big box store. In general, those local nurseries, not always, but in general, they're going to have greens that have been grown near you. So they're going to be much more likely to love your climate and enjoy growing in your climate. And most likely you're also supporting local business and helping that part of your local economy to thrive. So this particular label says naturally grown. So I've bought actually this particular brand a good number of times. So naturally grown doesn't mean organic. So a lot of times your local growers haven't been approved to be organic growers because that is a great expense, but they are growing naturally, meaning they're not using any synthetic fertilizers, herbicides, or pesticides. So when I see naturally grown, that gives me confidence that, you know, maybe it's not certified organic, but they haven't used any weird methods in growing it. So I check the tag, I talk to the person at the store, and then I also like to pull the plant out of the container and check to see the health of the roots. So in general, you're looking for roots that are not root bound. So oftentimes you have plants at nurseries that have been sitting there for quite some time, and you'll end up with roots really wound around one another. And when that's the case, the plant has been kind of starving for nutrients and water over a long period of time. So I like to just check that the roots are nice and white and healthy, and that the plant isn't too old, because oftentimes, you know, a nursery will buy inventory, and if it doesn't sell, they'll just keep it on the rack. So those few things can guarantee that you're going to have pretty good success with the plants that you buy. So again, I'm mostly just going to be focused on buying alliums that are going to be perennials in my garden, things like chives, onion, or garlic chives. And then I'm also focusing on my large and long plants, particularly in the brassica family. I might, on an off chance, buy like a Swiss chard or something like that. But rarely, I'm never going to buy something like arugula, sweet lettuces. Those soft lettuces, I'm never going to buy them from the store because they're not, even if they look okay, they're not going to transplant and do well in the garden. All right, let's talk about how we're going to plant these in the garden from plant. So again, we're going to use our plating method. So remembering the size that we have assigned to each of these plants in the garden. So let me get my plates. I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay, so I've got my large plant here, planting size because I am planting kale, which is a large plant. So I'm going to be lining this plant up when I'm planting my red Russian kale. I'm going to be lining it up with this size of plate. So whenever I'm putting it into the garden, I'm assuming it's going to need this much space, right? Then for my chives, this is more of a small size plant. This is my teacup saucer plant. So I'm going to be lining it up there. That's about the spacing that I need for it. So you want to make sure that as you're laying out your plants, especially if you're doing plants and direct seeding and a variety of things in this space, that you want to make sure everything's staying lined up correctly. All right, so once I know how much space these need, I do like to do a few things. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually water the garden space. And I do, when the plant is in its pot, I like to give the plant some extra water too. So let's see if I can do this without making too much of a mess. So I'm putting my my hose here at, you can put it at mist and just give it a light misting. So we're not drowning out the soil here. We're just wanting to really prep the space. And then I can do the same for the plant. So one thing to keep in mind, I've moved a lot. I talk about this in my book, Kitchen Garden Revival. Anytime you move anything, there's just stress involved, right? So watching my kids move, watching myself move. So when you're moving a plant, there's stress involved too. The plant is kind of going, wait, what just happened? Where am I? So when we're doing this, when we add a little bit of water, we're just kind of saying, we're just like smoothing the gears a little bit. You know what I mean? Like making it a little simpler for this plant to adjust to its new home. So I'm gonna mist the plant, I'm gonna mist the bed, and then I'm going to dig a hole about twice as wide and the same depth as this plant. So I can take my shovel here, and I'm gonna figure out how deep this plant is. So I only wanna dig to the depth of it. I don't want to bury this below the neck of the plant. So it looks like right as snee-bore, as I hit the snee-bore label, then I'm at the depth of the plant. Then I can also take this, and it's about the same width, right? So when you're digging a hole for any plant, you're going to dig twice as wide and the same depth so that you don't bury below the neck. So I'm going to place this here and kind of go double the width. So I'll space this out. So I'm doing about double the width, and I can test it, right? So I can put this plant here and here, and make sure I've got about twice the width. And then I also want to test it with the plant and make sure that I'm not too deep. Then what you're going to do is plant it right in the center. So I've got about this space here and this space here, and I'm planting it right in the center. Now when we dig on both sides of the plant, what we're doing is ensuring that the roots have plenty of space to grow side to side. You can dig down. Sometimes I will do this where I'll kind of loosen the soil underneath the plant. I'm not going to plant it that deep, but I'll loosen the soil just so there's aeration there so that the roots can go down. All right, so once I've done that, I want to make sure again that my neck of my plant is not going to get too low. And then I'm just going to bring the soil around the base of the plant and making sure that the neck is not suffocating, or whatever the word would be. I don't want to choke. That's the word I was looking for. All right, another thing I like to do when I've just planted something like a green or a chive is go ahead and prune. So anytime that you prune, you're telling the plant where to send its energy. And when we do this to the chive, what we're telling it to do is to put its energy toward the roots, to develop the roots before it tries to grow any new leaves for us, or any new, these aren't called leaves, but you know what I'm saying. So I'm literally just going to cut this like a ponytail, and I can take these indoors and use them right away. And that just allows this plant to put all of its focus on growing beautiful chives, or on developing deep roots before it grows beautiful chives. Takes the pressure off 100%. Just like you should do for your friend when they move to a new town. Don't expect them to do anything. Just make life easy for them, okay? All right, so that is how we're gonna do chives. Now quickly, I'm gonna show you how to do the kale, and you will be ready to plant anything. All right, so this kale, you can see, is still a little bit root bound. I actually bought this from a local grower who I trust a lot. She actually, I take that back, she gave this plant to me. And I just threw it in the garden. So it's been growing, but you can see it's 100% root bound. So this is something you don't want to get too crazy with, but what I am trying to do is loosen the roots. Again, you would never want to do this with a young lettuce plant. They're much too fragile, but this kale plant is pretty, it's a little bit tougher. But in general, I may honestly, like you have to take this. You can kind of, if you're the experimenting type, you can do this. If you don't like to experiment, don't do it. But I could tell after this plant has been in the garden for over a month, and the roots haven't spread out. So I'm like, okay, I need to help this out a little bit. All right, so do you remember our steps? So we are gonna remember what spacing we're gonna give this in the garden. So it needs about this much space right here in the center. So I'll put my plate there. I'm gonna take my trowel. Well, first I'm gonna wet, so I'm gonna mist this area. I'm gonna mist the root, only the root. We're not, we don't need to wet the leaves, just the root really, really well. Get it nice and soaked, especially since we loosened up those roots. And then remember, we're gonna go twice the width and the same depth. So I'll go twice the width of the plant, just like this. 1, 2, and then I want to make sure I'm not too deep, and then I'm going to place it right there in the center. So I'll take this soil, put it all around the base of the plant, and with this one probably you're going to want to pack it down around to give it support. Then we're going to water in one more time, just lightly misting. Again, you don't want to water the leaves, just the root. And then I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the chives, with pruning a little bit away, except this time I'm going to prune away anything that's wilty and also the outer leaves. So this allows the plant to put most of its energy toward the middle. So you never want to prune away on a green more than 1/3 at a time. So I want to leave some of those bigger leaves even though they're wilting a little bit. But I did prune away a little bit to take some of the pressure off so the plant can put its energy toward root growth. That's what we want the plant to focus on now. All right, that is how to plant from plant. Remember, don't go plant shopping, go seed shopping first, and then if you still need some things to fill in your salad garden, you can go plant shopping. I hope this inspires you and shows you exactly what to do when you buy plants. Now, hopefully you'll never buy a plant again, bring it home and watch it fail and then think you don't have a green thumb. Because you do. It's the plant's fault, not yours. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.